Okay, guys, I want to talk about something that I think you're going to really resonate with. Are you a person who finds yourself deferring to other people's perspectives and opinions, even though you may have more experience, more knowledge? So for example, at work, maybe you have a lot of expertise, but someone in a senior position might make a recommendation. You don't quite buy into it, but you also don't say anything. You sort of defer because you're like, maybe that's what they want. But in truth, you really are the GOAT, but you don't stand up as if you are. Or what about your partner or loved ones? Have you ever been in a situation where your partner is like, hey, what do we want to have for dinner tonight? And you say, I want Mexican. And then your partner says, okay, I'd like Chinese. And then you say, okay, I'll go with Chinese. This is a perfect example of, drum roll, people pleasing. And that's what we're going to talk about in today's episode. I'm Tracey Knight, and I'm your codependency coach. So here we go. This idea of people pleasing is so near and dear to my heart, I have got to tell you my little story. Now, I am a woman who is pretty decisive. However, as I've said in some of my earlier episodes, there have been times when I got feedback very early in my life that maybe my personality was super strong and I should think about toning it down. As time went on, there was this concept of being too masculine that came up, and that it's not being fully feminine if you express yourself assertively. It's seen as being aggressive or even an angry Black woman. So I remember there was a whole stint in my life, several years, where I was attempting to become more feminine. You know, I wanted to make sure that I wasn't being too masculine, too dominant, because I wanted people to like me, okay? This is all about people pleasing, all about other people's perception outside of myself. And so in my current relationship, my sweetie would sometimes say, look, first of all, if I want Chinese and you want Mexican, we can both have what we want. And so I started thinking, I was like, you're right, we can both have what we want. However, I was sort of grooming myself, and I think I kind of also took some directives from my parents and other older people who would say, oh, well, the woman kind of goes along to support her mate or her man. My sweetie was like, he is not looking for that. He wants me to be the fullest expression of myself, to say what it is that I want and go after it. We can both have that. That is what freedom and liberation truly are in relationship, being able to be fully expressed. Let me share another way that this kind of came up for me recently, and I had to really check myself on it, is I noticed that because I had spent so much time people pleasing, that I was starting to become indecisive. Oh my God, this is one of the major consequences of people pleasing. And I am not an indecisive person. I am clear about what I want. I'm clear about what I want it to look like. I'm clear, and I know from within me when it's time for me to go get it and when it's time for me to hold back and kind of allow things to happen. But because I had this mindset of I needed to be more feminine and more demure, what I started doing was people pleasing so much that I lost sight of my own voice, my own power. And so it made me look like it made me look like I wasn't really decisive. That rolled over into my business. So here I was, I have a whole team that helps me, and people were like, okay, Tracey, well, what do you want here? And I'd be like, oh, well, maybe the team should decide. Like, what does the team want to do? Because I'm trying to look like I'm a team player and I'm not a bossy boss. When really the team is looking to me for guidance, for direction, and for clarity. And so I found that this whole thing, this whole notion, this codependent pattern of people pleasing and trying to get validation outside of myself was showing up in my business and showing up as somebody who was indecisive, unclear, and could not lead people or lead them at least effectively. And so this is what shows up in the workplace so often. And I coach executive leaders all over the world. And they're wondering why sometimes they second guess themselves. That is an indicator. Look at that as a tip. Are you starting to feel like you can't trust your decision making? Are you waiting for other people to give their opinion and their perspective before you will actually make a decision? Do you feel uncomfortable or second guess yourself even when you do make a decision and start to break down all the different reasons why it really won't work? These are all signs of codependency and i.e. people pleasing. So what do we do about people pleasing? Well, you first got to get clear about who you are, what you want, and owning your power. One sure indicator is the fear of making mistakes. So often I find that leaders, especially in the workplace, are terrified of making a mistake and being judged for making a mistake. But the reality of it is making mistakes is a normal part of life. And I oftentimes apologize on behalf of educators because I am an educator. You know, at my core, I'm an educator, right? My degrees are in education and I love developing people. But I apologize on behalf of the K-12 system. And here's why. Because in the scientific method, which you're taught as early as elementary school, the beginning part of that scientific process is to form a hypothesis and then to do what? You got it. It's to go out and actually test whether or not that hypothesis really works. So that's the same thing in our life. What we do is we make the best decision that we can, like we're forming a hypothesis, like, I think that this is the best approach. And then we go out and we apply it and see whether or not it works. So in the scientific process, in experiments, we test and then we get the feedback and then we course correct and then we do what? We go back out there and we do it again. And we keep repeating that process over and over again until we have a perfected product or service or understanding of what works and what doesn't work. Do you think that they got these microphones and laptops and things on the first try? Absolutely not. That was a whole trial and error process. But we have gotten to a place in education where we don't want children who then turn into adults to make mistakes. We have a grading system that penalizes us for making mistakes. It's called getting an F. And no person wants to get an F because nobody wants to feel like they're failing. And so what do we do in turn in the trade-off for not wanting to get that F? We start people pleasing. It is just such a vicious cycle. So if you want to course correct this, you really need to pay attention to where you might be resistant to making a mistake. Begin to re-script your mindset that making mistakes is not a sense of you being a failure. Making mistakes is a part of the developmental process. It's called feedback. We cannot grow if we do not have feedback. That is a part of our development. So I want to invite you to invite more feedback into your life, one. Number two, I want you to be clear about the things that you want and that you don't want and own it. And if it doesn't work, you have the flexibility of changing and pivoting whenever you want. It doesn't make you an indecisive person. It makes you a person who takes information and is agile enough to adjust and adapt based on circumstances. And I tell you, the last thing is that your partners, your colleagues, the people you supervise will value you more for being a person who is decisive, but can also own when you make a mistake and you're willing to take feedback from other people and course correct in the process. You actually get credit and get more credibility with your team when you're able to do this. So those are my tips for today. I want to remind you that I want to hear from you. What do you think? Where is people pleasing showing up in your life? One of the ways that you can do that is by providing some comments below and even asking questions. It helps me to get better at what I'm doing. And it also, I'm telling you, people learn from other people. So when you ask the questions and I respond to them, that is going to help somebody else that you don't even know. So let me invite you to like us, tag us, share us, and then subscribe to the channel so that you can be pinged and notified whenever we have new episodes that show up. Let's see, what else do I want to share with you? I'm with you on this journey. You are not alone. Man or woman is not meant to travel alone on this planet. We are meant to be here and to support. And I want to remind you, if people pleasing is something that's really showing up in your life, all you have to do is check out the links below. I have a wonderful boot camp, the Conquering Codependency Boot Camp, which is going to teach you how in as little as 30 days how to overcome some of these habits. The other thing you can do is click the other link and sign up for a quick 30-minute consultation with me that's free of charge, where we can get to the root of your codependent pattern.